I call the June 12th, 2025 meeting of the Police Advisory and Oversight Board to order. We'll start with an introduction of commission members. I am Tanya Graywind, the chair.
Conrad Thomas, Vice President.
Lucretia King.
Joanna Johnson.
Do we have Scott? Virtually, not yet. All right, we'll move. I know that we had an intention to amend the agenda. Do we want-
Yeah, I motion to amend the agenda.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
I was thinking that number 5, the discussion of board member terms, could be removed from the agenda today. The city commission met and the future of the board is, hanging there. And so board member terms probably isn't necessary today. But I'd like to maybe add that in Chief Zabowski's updates, if he could maybe shine some light on the meeting on Monday through the city commission. So I motion to remove number 5 from our agenda.
I second.
All right, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Scott? I think motion carries, and we will amend the agenda. All right. Do I still need to go through approving the rest of the agenda, I imagine?
You should go to your approval of minutes, yeah.
Approve the
Okay,
minutes,
so
yeah.
I guess I need a motion to approve the agenda, the amended agenda.
Oh, I see.
I motion.
And a second, please.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. No opposed. The next step would be approving the minutes. So I would like to get a motion to approve the May 8th, 2025 meeting minutes.
Motion.
I'll second.
Second. All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. I don't think we have any opposed. The next item is public comment. Those who wish to address the Police Advisory and Oversight Board must use the sign-in sheet. Speakers must state their name and will be limited to 3 minutes. Comments should not contain profanity or personal attacks. Do we have anybody signed up?
We do not.
We do not. All right, on to the next. We amended our agenda, so we no longer are discussing board terms. The next thing that we had on the agenda was the tip line process.
Yes, so some members brought up they have received correspondence on the tip line process in regards to like follow-up to when somebody submits a tip. So we're just going to walk through that a little bit. So the first thing is if people want to submit a tip to the Fargo Police Department on criminal activity or other things they're seeing, they just send that to Fargo PD, is how they would send that text to tip. And then what the community should know, so when it comes to tips, what we're looking for is obviously information on the activity that you're seeing. If you know who the specific people are is very important. If you don't know who they are, obviously a description of them, the address of where the criminal activities may be happening, description of the people, license plates. Another big thing is if they're willing to provide like a callback number or even a first name. That comes in very helpful. When I was up in investigations, our detectives all the time would contact the person who left the tip if there were like questions that needed to be answered. And a lot of times we would gather more information on that tip by calling the person, which obviously would help the investigation. And then the other thing just to note, like if you do text in a tip, you will get correspondence that your tip was received, but depending on what the information is, if it is in relation to an ongoing investigation or if that information opens up an ongoing investigation, the detectives or analysts who are fielding that information, they're not going to be able to call you back and tell you like, okay, we're looking into this, here's kind of what we're investigating, who we're investigating, because obviously all that is protected because it's an open investigation. But one thing they do try to do is they will try to follow up if they need more information, or if they can give, any information on what's going to happen with their tip. But most of the follow-up is going to be more geared towards gathering more information so they can get it to the appropriate investigating detectives to start looking into, either to further an investigation or what can we do to to open an investigation, and what more information do we need?
I think most common in narcotics tips, right?
Yes.
Narcotics tips, a lot of time people are expecting or looking for that, some kind of immediate response, or they think that nothing's going on because they don't know what's happening behind the scenes. There's a lot of investigative work depending on the nature of the tip, whether or not we are already aware of the person or location and have an ongoing investigation. So there's a lot of variance there, and usually that's in terms of tips where people get probably the most either confused or frustrated because they think nothing's happening. So, and I think that folks in the task force, once they close things out, they are making communication, so.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I believe this was something that came up from Mr. Cohen. He was in public comment last visit. And he was, it seemed like he was confused of what was needed in the tip.
Yeah, we
Right.
actually hooked him up with someone, and Captain Alfeld handled that and walked through all of the questions that he had with him. I think he was having some technology difficulties with his phone because the app that he had loaded up wasn't functioning, but that's not, the department can't really fix that. So I chatted with him a little bit before the commission meeting last week also.
And to clarify, if you give a tip, can you do it anonymously?
You can. Yep.
And then two, if you do a tip, it does not mean, from what you're telling me, it does not mean that you are going to get a call from someone inquiring for more information, especially if it's something that's under investigation.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, if you attach, like a lot of the tips we get might give like a first name. Sometimes we'll even give them like concerned citizen, but then they'll leave their phone number too. And depending on the information given, yes, the detective more likely than not would reach back out, or somebody from Intel, just to ask more clarifying questions. And then the other thing to remember too is, I mean, anything that comes in the tip line also has to be, vetted as well. Because we have to ensure that the information is, reasonably true before we start, opening investigations on people. So that's another component of it. When this information comes in, it goes to our Intel unit. They'll start looking at it. Does the information make sense? Do we have anything kind of already on this address or this person? And then to really take it from, okay, is this just criminal information, or is this now criminal intelligence to further build on? So that's a whole nother process, is just vetting that information so that we don't open up investigations or put something out that's not accurate.
Okay.
Vetting that information is in an open time in terms of that window. Typically, how much time would it take? I know it all depends on what the actual incident actually is, but is there a certain window assigned to it, whether how much investigative time is going to be allotted for proceeding and investigating those types of incidents?
Yeah, I think again, it's gonna depend on the information. Obviously, if it's information of an already ongoing investigation, that's gonna get pushed to the detective or the group that's investigating it to help further investigation. If it's more the criminal information side of things, like let's say somebody calls in a narcotics complaint, a lot of late night activity, people coming and going from this address, things like that, that's obviously gonna go to Intel. They'll look at it, they'll vet it, and they're probably gonna push it over to the narcotics task force to say, hey, we got this information in, this might be pertinent to investigation, and obviously they'll look at it, and if it is, obviously they'll take that information. If it's not, they might, mark it down as, okay, this might be a potential address we need to look at, and then they'll start investigating it depending on the information that they receive.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. All right, the next item on our agenda is police department updates.
Thank you. I'm going to turn some of these things over to Travis to give you the updates on camping, marathon, and trikes. But just to start with, the most pertinent item for everyone's knowledge is that the mayor informed me this week that there would be an agenda item on the June 23rd commission meeting that would be an item to rescind the ordinance that established the Police Advisory and Oversight Board. So the agenda won't be out until Friday, the 20th. So we'll see if that makes it onto the agenda as intended, and then the commission will decide that on the 23rd. So in terms of future meetings and things of that nature, I don't have that exact answer yet. I would anticipate that if they motion to rescind the ordinance, we likely would not meet past that date. But I need to confer also with the city attorney. There is a first and second reading piece that ordinance would have to go through the commission before it was fully rescinded. That would take us to about July 21st. So there's, under that auspice, would we meet in July? I just don't know. That's something I have to look into a little bit more. And I'll let you know as soon as I find out that answer. City attorney's out at a conference the rest of this week, so I haven't had a chance to chat with her. The other pieces here, I'll just touch on what I can tell you. The fleeing vehicles. So have we implemented any new resources? No, we don't have any new resources, but we do have a new law that will go into effect on August 1st. So we were successful in getting HB 1229 through the legislature this session. Appreciate all the help of both the Senate and the Assembly side on getting that through. And so as of August 1st, it will be, there's a non-criminal fine for the owner of a vehicle that flees one of our traffic stops. Basically, they're responsible for who's driving the car. So the process would be, we would follow up with the owner of the car. Most of these, we got the plates. We know who the owner is. They're not stolen. The officer would follow up and then ask them who was driving the car at a particular time. And they could decide to either work with the officer and cooperate and provide information that it wasn't them and who it might have been. Or they can decide not to do anything and receive a non-criminal citation. I think the first offense is 100, second offense 500, but don't hold me to that. I have to recheck that. But so that's a tool that we don't have, and that should incentivize, I think, a lot of people from fleeing, and also have a mechanism to hold some of those folks accountable. So we're pretty happy about that, and that'll be something new effective on August 1st. Additionally to this, our traffic safety team has been doing a fantastic job as a group, and then also working collectively with the Highway Patrol and other entities. We've had a number of felony arrests for people who are fleeing on motorcycles. Multiple cases where they've, because they're a proactive team, they've got the opportunity to concentrate on these folks and these offenders, and have figured out some innovative ways to locate, identify, and arrest them. So we've got several that were arrested on felony charges. We've also got, I think, 2 fatalities now from motorcycles in which they were driving recklessly and the operator has been killed. And then we had the one on 52nd Avenue where the guy was clocked at over 143 miles per hour, hit another vehicle and miraculously survived, but he's facing multiple felony charges. We identified him as the suspect in many other fleeing instances. And for some of these people, the theme has been that they actually drive up next to the squad and try and provoke the officer into a pursuit, and then they take off in a reckless manner. So we've got evidence to support that, and we're working with the state attorney's office to ensure full prosecution on those. Community picnics on the 18th. I think and then I'll turn the rest over to Lieutenant Mosier to give you the updates. Thank you.
For the camping update, so obviously May 1st was the, when the resolution was lifted, and obviously it became illegal to camp on public and park land. The initiative to remove the remaining camps that were out there and to keep on top of new camps that kind of pop up has gone very well. From May 1st to the end of the month of May, there were 23 camps that were noticed and removed by Public Works and the Park District. There were 16 people that were contacted at those camps, and then 9 citations issued for either camping or failing to remove the camp. And then I believe it was, I think there were 6 arrests, but those were related to the people that were contacted and cited were had open warrants for their arrest, and then some drug paraphernalia a couple different times got found. So the community engagement officers have done a fantastic job of going out there and really monitoring that and working with Public Works and Parks to get the camps cleaned up. They're doing that on pretty much a daily basis, riding the bike paths and looking. And obviously we get a lot of, or I shouldn't say a lot, a handful of complaints that come in on Fargo 1 too, and we want to encourage the community to keep doing that as they're out, on the bike trails, or we've even found that they've moved up away from the river. We did have one that was in some trees just to the east of Fleet Farm. So when people are out and about, just to, keep an eye out, and if you see, people camping, or if you have questions on if they're camping or not, definitely submit that through Fargo 1, and we send people out pretty much immediately to go check on that. And we've had several, I'd say probably 8 to 10 complaints that come in, and we go out there and either we can't find the campsite, or we find out that it's not actually a campsite by city ordinance, and then we just check on the people and try to get them the assistance they need and ask them to move along if they'd be willing to. So overall, the camping initiative has gone very well.
Are you having any repeat people, like you take their stuff down, they come back, or anything like that?
No, we're not seeing a lot of repeat people, no. They kind of did a big cleanup last Friday with Public Works and Parks, and a lot of it was just, as the engagement officers were going along the river, they found a lot of like old campsites or just stuff that got left behind that didn't get found and cleaned up. So they did a big cleanup from 15th Avenue North all the way down to, I think Convent Landing is kind of where they stopped finding stuff. So they went out and did a big cleanup of everything, so. Any other questions with camping? No? Okay. Marathon, kind of an update from the marathon. Overall, the event itself went extremely well. Just like all years, we have traffic-related issues where, some people would move barricades or barriers to, get through, and they end up on the route. So we would deal with that. But overall, very successful, very good communication. This was the first marathon where we set the event operations center up in the police department upstairs next to our real-time crime center. And the feedback from that from people involved was very positive. It was very nice to have everybody kind of in one building and access to the real-time crime center. If they had questions or need to see something, they could just take a few steps away and kind of come see what was going on. So that is something we're kind of looking at for the future for other large gathering events, is maybe possibly holding that event operations center here when we have multiple agencies and event planners involved. But overall, even medical-wise, we didn't have a lot of medicals. We did have one significant medical at the finish line, but as far as like years past, we didn't have a lot of runners having medicals along the route. So overall, it was a very, very successful event.
Trikes we've got out there, great. Removable barriers are modular vehicle barriers. Some of the trailering pieces are in, but we don't have all the barriers yet, so we're still hoping to have that. We should have it here in time for Street Fair, which was the goal. That planning is underway. The other piece I wanted to talk about also was the video release that you probably heard about earlier this week as well. It's consumed a lot of time for myself and the police department. Hopefully you're able to see the follow-up interviews that put proper context to everything that occurred. And again, I think a really good example of why we should not, or entities should not, just release raw video without context, content, verification of validity, because it just creates these bizarre environments in which people conclude things without all the facts. That's usually not very helpful for anybody involved. So we're hoping that that won't happen again with our local media, and we'll be working with them on that going forward. The other thing that there was a question about was the amount of time this individual spent in jail. That was a big question because in January of '24, he had received a 2-year sentence for multiple felonies. And he's previously been convicted of other felonies, including assaulting officers, but received a very minimal 2-year term. That was January of '24. You know, the simple math, it's June of '25, and that's not 2 years. He did get some time for credit for time served. He was in custody since August of '23, but that still wouldn't make 2 years until this August. So yesterday, I got a phone call from the DOCR director, Cody Brom, rather, and he reached out on his own to make contact and let me know that basically they calculated it, and that by state statute, according to him, the person can only serve 85% of their sentence, and that when you calculate the 85% and add in credit that this individual apparently gained from good time served while in prison, he had a mandatory release time in April of '25, and so he was released back without any supervision or any notification. All different issues to discuss probably in the next legislative session and things that, I don't know, probably many people are not very happy about, but according to him, it's current law, so I'll take that for at face value and appreciate his outreach. We did discuss some improvements to the process and asked him if he would maybe be able to come up with a process in which if someone is released from prison to our community, that the police department was notified ahead of time. Now, we get notifications quite often for people who are released and are on parole or some kind of other supervision, sex offenders, all that stuff. We get those notices, you know, so we see who they are, know where they are, get a little bit of their background. But we get absolutely no notice on someone like this individual who's obviously got a significant felony record and is released back into the community just like dropped from the sky. He's back. No one knows him. No one knows he's here until something happens like this. So hopefully that may be one bright spot out of this entire situation. So I'll continue working with him on that, but I think it's a rather easy process, at least on our end. Our intelligence and analysis unit can easily consume that information, push it out to our cops so that they have some awareness of some of these folks. Any questions on any of that? All right, and then we might be out of items, so I just wanted to, before we get to the end of the agenda, recognize and thank all of you for your efforts and time and commitment to the Advisory and Oversight Board. So you are the originals. You know, if the commission rescinds as anticipated, I guess would be appropriate to say, that board will dissolve, and so you'll be the originals and onlys, I guess, on that official capacity. So you've all put a lot of effort and time and commitment into that, and that's much appreciated. I think we've done a lot of really good presentations and learned a lot of things that, you know, help educate the community. Once this final action is taken, I think that's when we can figure out what next steps might be and how do we, you know, continue to engage the community, who's interested in doing that, et cetera. So I'm just not really able to define that in certain terms at this moment. So we got to let all the other chips fall first. But I do want you to know that we really appreciated your participation and interest in all that we do. So thank you.
Any other business? All right, with that said, this meeting of the Police Advisory and Oversight Board stands adjourned. Our next board meeting is to be determined.